agenda, and sitting here today is our very special guest, Jeanne Assam.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
So we want to kind of have just a conversation. The topic today is gun control, or not gun control, or gun rights. Also, there's a debate or a lot of proposals that are floating around out there to arm school teachers. And the question is whether or not a school teacher would actually be able to take on a AR-15 wielding gunman. And Jeanne here is a Minneapolis police officer, formerly with Minneapolis Police Department, who had now, correct me if I'm wrong, is it Glock 9mm? Is that what you had at the time?
No, I hate the Glock.
Okay.
Right. I had a Beretta.
Okay.
92 FS. It's a 9.
A 9mm. Okay. So suffice it, she had a pistol when a man armed with an AR-15 style gun, right? It was an XM-35.
It was a Bushmaster. It's AR-15.
It looks like an AR-15, but technically the model number that he used was something crazy.
Yeah, he actually made it more powerful caliber than it was. He recalibrated it, making it, so the bullets just cut through vehicles and thick metal and thick glass and things like that.
So the debate right now you say that so matter-of-factly, by the way, but that's amazing. We'll talk about that. The question right now is whether or not somebody can take on, a pistol can take on somebody with an AR-15. And we'll explore that, but we won't get to the answer quite yet. I'll let Jeanne talk about her experience, and I'll let you describe why everyone knows your name, or why a lot of people in the United States know your name.
You want me to just kind of go through a quick abbreviated version of what happened that day?
Well,
let
me do this then. Jeanne Assam took on an AR-15 wielding gunman and stopped him. This guy had killed 2 people in Arvada on a Saturday night. Then I can't remember if he slept or if he stayed up all night. I can't remember what he did.
He shot 4, killing 2, point blank range, went home. This was a facility, this is pertinent to the connection here. Youth with a Mission, which I had never heard of at that time, is also has an office at New Life Church, because it's like, what's the connection? Why did he go to these 2 places? Well, he shot 4, killing 2.
Right.
Goes home and sleeps in his bed.
Right.
And then that same morning.
Right. So this was a church in Arvada, 64th and Ward, about where it is now. It's Bible.
Faith Bible. I don't know where YWAM is, but I don't know if it's in that church or.
Right. So then he killed 2 people there, wounded 2 other people, and then the next morning showed up at New Life Church. I guess he hung out in the parking lot for a while.
New Life Church is located?
Oh, in Colorado
Springs.
Thank you. 65 miles south.
Well, he kills these people at 12:30 midnight. He escapes and goes home and sleeps in his own bed in Inglewood, and he stayed with his parents. And he wrote an email that morning, I'm coming to New Life. I'm coming there next to kill. So I didn't know this till a few years later about this email. So they had extra Colorado Springs officers there at the church at New Life. We had a couple because it's 15,000 members, and it's one of the biggest churches, if not the biggest, in Colorado. And so they had extra off-duty Colorado Springs officers there. Now, you have to be a police officer to be a parole officer. So I had actually been recruited as an investigator downtown Denver to become a parole officer in Colorado Springs. So otherwise, I never would have been down there. I like Denver. So it was just very interesting how it played out. So I get this job with parole, and then just a few months later, the shooting happened, and you know, just 4 months before the shooting happened, I thought, you know, this church is so big, I wonder if I should be a part of the security team. You know, you're just a volunteer, and I really didn't want to, but I just felt myself being led. You know, like, who's in charge of security? And handed an application, and 5 weeks later, they're like, you're on the team.
So,
you know?
So you had to apply to become a security guard. So this church is huge, by the way. The New Life Church, I think the sanctuary can hold something like 10,000 people. Yeah,
it's like it was 15,000 members with 2 services, and now it's dropped way down in membership. But it's 35-acre property. Yeah, it's a huge church.
So that morning, I understand that you weren't actually going to attend church that day. Is that
right? I was trying to be. I didn't have any time for God in my life, and my life just starts falling apart. And I'm like, okay, let's try this God thing. So I was like, there's New Life Church, a mile away from where I lived, and I'm not trying to be smart aleck about that. So I joined the, I become a Christian, or a believer, I will call it, and I joined the security team. You're not a security guard, you're just part of this, you're a member of the New Life security team. Plain clothes, just like this, no bulletproof vest, and only some of us were armed. Not all of us, for obvious reasons, and I was the only female on the team, and I was the only police officer on the team. So of course they had me be armed, and we weren't ever thinking of active shooters, because the only one that we had really heard of was Columbine, and so we had never trained for it or practiced or anything like that. We were just basically there. There's issues like child custody disputes. You've got millions, thousands of people at this church. There's medical issues, there's crazy people, all sorts of people go to church. And so you need a security team. Everybody forgets for the main purposes of just keeping order inside this facility with all these people.
So that morning you weren't actually planning on going to church, I understand.
Right. I was going to stay home because I was asking God, what should I do with my life? Should I stay in law enforcement or do something else? And so they told me, this husband and wife pastor team had said, why don't you try fasting so you can hear from God? I'm like, okay, I'll do it. How do you do it? How do you fast? They said, well, you go without food. 3 days seems to be the magic number. And then you just, emptying yourself seems to make a way for you to hear from God. This is what they told me. And I'm like, okay, I'll do it. So Friday, I started my 3-day fast. And Sunday would have been the third and final day. So Saturday night, there happened to be a very large play at New Life called Wonderland, where thousands and thousands of people from all over come to this production. It was a big production, kind of like the Christ, the one they put on about Jesus Christ being, sacrificing his life, like the Passion of the Christ. So it's Saturday night, and I was like talking to the leader of the security team, and I said, am I fasting right? Am I doing this right? And he goes, yeah, you're doing it right, Jeanne. He goes, why don't you just stay home tomorrow, which would be Sunday, the day. And I said, yeah, I'll just play it by ear, because I was going to hear from God, because these guys said I would. And that's all they had to do was say, 3 days, you should be able to hear direction from God. So Sunday comes, and I'm like, that's it. I'm going to stay home to hear from God about what I'm going to do with my life. And so I look on the internet, and I just saw a tiny little sentence that says, gunman had shot and killed people at this place called YWAM in Arvada. And we're 70 plus miles south in Colorado Springs. And I just, you know, I had gone without food for 3 days. I'm not crazy. I'm just really sensitive, you know, to things. And I just thought, this guy is going to come to New Life Church. I felt so certain of it. I got chills down my spine. And so I called the director of our security team and I said, did you hear about this shooting in Arvada and the gunman is not yet apprehended? And the director's like, yeah. And I said, I'm coming in. So I showered, and as I'm showering, I'm thinking, I might not be coming home today because I might be in a shootout with this gunman. I mean, that's how strong it was. And
did you have breakfast?
I did not. No, I didn't have breakfast. This was the third day. I hadn't heard yet, and I'm very disciplined.
when you prepared yourself that morning, you know, I would imagine that you have a process of where you go about loading your gun. Did you?
No, my gun's always loaded.
Okay.
It's not like TV where they're like right at the last second so the bad guy can hear you. You know. Oh, the cops are right there. I just heard them, you know, put a round in the chamber.
That's exactly what I'm thinking.
It's not how it is.
All right. So you had your gun. Do you have a holster for it?
Yeah.
And do you carry? I mean, how do you? I mean, this is the detail that just.
I carry it right here. It's tucked inside your jeans.
Okay.
And it's ready to rock and roll. I don't have to, you know.
What kind of gun is it?
Right now I carry a Walther.
Well, what kind of gun did
handgun.
you carry that morning?
It was my Beretta,
Beretta.
16 rounds.
Okay.
Handgun.
16 rounds. So you knew it had 16 rounds in it?
Yeah.
Okay.
So, I mean, police weapons, plus it was an Italian-made Beretta. So, you know, most of them don't carry 16 rounds, but the police ones do.
And you had a police version of this?
Because I was a police officer, yeah. Okay. This is what we carried with the Minneapolis police. This is what we were instructed to carry.
All right, so you got dressed and you put your gun in its holster and tucked it into the waist of your pants.
Yep.
And then you went to church.
Yeah, I did. I got ready, and I had missed a lot of the first service, you know, because I was getting ready. And
so Jeanne, the first service, how many people at that time, how many people were in the first service?
We had extra people both services because we had a guest speaker that day. So the church was absolutely packed, as full as you could get it.
Ballpark it, like how many people? Like 9,000, was that at capacity, about 8,000?
Capacity, I think is 7, 8.
Okay. So you
no,
had
it's
like
got to be more than that.
5,000 to 6,000 people at least per service.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, so that day, the report said there were 7,000. So there was more than that day, because the report said there were 7,000 people at the time of the shooting. People were not leaving. Like after church service, they usually go home and watch the game or whatever. They just want to go and eat. But that day they were lingering, and because I remember a cop going, he was standing next to me and he's like, well, I'm out of here. It was 12:45. And I'm like, really? I'm like, there's still all these people here. And we weren't talking about the gunman showing up there, because that was, remember, I did not know about this email until later, years later, when a homicide detective told me. He did know. The cops did know about it. And
let me just say one thing real quick about that email is that I don't think the church has ever released it or
no,
mentioned anything.
Public
of it.
doesn't
so
know.
This is an email that you have come to learn.
Confirmed it with Arvada PD that
okay.
it does exist. It did exist.
If somebody were trying to find this email, it'd be difficult to actually get your hands on it.
I don't think so.
Okay. All right. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So let's go back. You said you got to the first service. You were late, and I guess that was uneventful. The let out and the.
Well, yeah. I mean, I wasn't thinking, oh, I probably missed him. I mean, the thoughts going through my mind, just because I was a little bit late, I never even considered until you just said that. I never even considered for a moment that I missed him, and I didn't know. I had no way of knowing if he was going to show up other than this overwhelmingly strong gut feeling. I mean, your gut feeling is very powerful. And I tell people there's no such thing as women's intuition. It is gut instinct, and we all have it. And whether you listen to it or not is up to you. But
and I think maybe women might have a better chance of listening to it. No, I'm kidding.
Well,
I'm kidding.
it's a cop thing too.
Right.
I mean, cops are like that. Those guys are up to something. It's. But I think everybody's got this gut feeling. So.
All right. So the first service ends, and then the second service begins.
Yep.
And then that ends, and then now we're back at 12:45 when now you have some of the security detail saying they're going to go home.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of the members of the team left because there was a Broncos football game, and the gunman, that they all had known about that except me because I wasn't even going to be there that day, and nobody told me about it. And so I didn't say anything either because this was all my gut feeling, and I didn't know if he was going to show up or not. I just, like I said, had that feeling. So the police, the off-duty cops left, and we found out later that he had been waiting in the parking lot for 1 hour for the squads to leave. And when there are ways we can determine where he was, his location.
Let me back up for a little bit here. So with 10,000 people, or 6,000, 7,000 people gather in the sanctuary, so there's also police officers who are there to kind of show of force with police cars outside.
Yeah, there's.
And then there's a church security detail inside, which is private and members.
Yeah, and then there's a couple off-duty officers in uniform because the church is so large.
It's huge. I mean, that's a small city. That's a small city if you think about it. I mean,
and then there's things like the parking lot. There's people that'll cruise the parked cars for computers and purses and things so they can break into them. Okay. So there's squads out patrolling the lot as well.
Okay. So people start leaving, and I guess, I mean, do you at some point breathe a sigh of relief that nothing's going to happen, everything's fine?
No.
Okay.
Never once. And some strange things happened, we had a $70,000 radio system. So like Secret Service, picture Secret Service, with the, like on TV, and then we had our radios hidden, and someone goes, I hear security. There's a guy standing against. Suspicious guy standing against the wall in section such and such. And so I immediately go over to that section, and 2 Colorado Springs officers follow me. And the first thing I do, he is leaning against the wall, which was odd because the sanctuary is huge and it's in a U shape, and then the pastor's up front. And it's like, why is he leaning against the wall? So the first thing I look at are his hands. That's where you hold the weapon. And so I approach him and I said, security, come with me. And he doesn't say anything. I have him go first, and then I pat him down, and I said, you are, I told him why I was patting him down. He has a right to know why I'm patting him down. And when I was in the sanctuary, it was so quiet. It felt weird in there, but I mean, I don't know how to explain that either. Just, it was so quiet, and it had a funny feel to it inside the sanctuary as the guest pastor was speaking.
So your blood sugar was low, or you're about to faint?
No.
It was all the fasting, right?
No.
Okay.
No,
okay.
None of that.
Right.
No, I wasn't hungry.
Okay.
I didn't have tunnel vision. It was nothing weird like that. I mean, I've gone 5 days without food before. And So anyway, the church service ends, and like I said, since we had a guest speaker, people are lingering and talking and joking around, and then the off-duty officers are like, "We're out of here," the job is done. So
as this is happening, what I heard is that there were, now, I mean, these are some estimates, that there were between 200 and 300 people still in the sanctuary.
7,000 people were at the church at the time of the shooting.
Okay.
7,000 people.
Okay.
And so the reports just drove me nuts. It's like,
Okay.
that was done deliberately, by the way. You know, there was only 50 to 100 people there. And
so they leave and you hang around. Where were you when you first realized that something was happening?
well, remember, when that off-duty officer said, well, I'm out of here, my comment was, wow, there are still so many people here. Why are you leaving? You know, but their job was up. Their off-duty job was done, so they left.
When was your scoring the suspicious character in relation to the fellow next to you saying, I'm out of here?
He wasn't the guy. The suspicious guy was not the guy. He was just a guy
It's just one
being a
of the weird
goofball.
things that happened during
Yeah.
that service that stuck out. Just
So,
so
the officers left, and then a few minutes after the officers left, about 5 to 1, someone goes, security. That guy says there's something weird going on outside. So I go up to this man and
where were you when
in the lobby.
In the lobby. What were you doing?
watching, just watching, is the very vague description we got that I read in the newspaper was that this was a white male in his mid-20s, no height, no weight description, which is very helpful, but no height or weight.
Pretty much the youth group.
Just
at New
white,
Life Church, right?
white male, yeah.
Yeah, okay.
Well,
Okay.
just a white male in his mid-20s possible, glasses possible, beard. That's it. That's a bad description for all those people. So I'm just watching. I have a very strong, I've always had a strong gut feeling, like I can tell when if something's not right. And so can you. You've probably been walking and you're like, something's up with that dude, or something's up with, this person's very odd. You can feel it, right? You can feel that. So I knew I would be able to feel it. And if he did show up, how did I know he was going to show up? So they're like, that guy says there's something weird going on outside. So I talked to this man, he goes, there's like a smoke grenade out in the front. So I go out to investigate, and there is a commercial grade, it looked like a stick of dynamite, only it was like light blue. And it looked like a stick of dynamite, but smoke was just pouring out of it. And I wasn't thinking, oh, the gunman's here. That is not at all what I was thinking. I was just thinking, this is a large church. There are a lot of people here, and a lot of kids. And I was trying to keep people from walking through this smoke. Like, was it going to explode, or was it toxic smoke? And they're just walking through it like it's a normal Sunday. It's like, can you not see this is quite unusual? So I'm trying to keep people back and thinking, should I call fire department? And it's all happening quickly, and all of a sudden the smoke stops. And so I'm trying to get witness information, like, did anybody see who did this? And someone goes, oh, it was one, I saw a guy, he was one white guy in a red car. And somebody else said, no, I saw, it was three white guys in a white car. That is typical police witness description, like it was a black guy in a tan leather jacket. No, it was a white guy in a black leather jacket. So I was going to go inside to write down both descriptions of who did this, because it's just going to be an incident report. That's all I'm thinking. And so I go inside to write down their names, and before I could start writing, I hear this, well, there's another smoke grenade outside the cafeteria doors. Now,
so let me just stop here to just kind of give a description of the church.
Well, I was going to do
You're
that.
going to do that? Okay, go right ahead then.
Yeah,
Okay.
because that's crucial.
Yes.
So the church is huge, and where I'm standing, the cafeteria is enormous, but it was so far away. I would say 150 to 200 yards from where I was standing. And those were outside. That's where he had dropped whoever this person was, had dropped this other smoke grenade. And before I could say, so then there's the east hallway, and I'll describe that also. But before I could say another one, I hear this pop, pop, pop noise. And so I'm like, I hope that's not what I think it is. And all of a sudden,
what did you think? What else could it have been?
well, it's pop, pop, pop. Muffled. I worked on the north side of Minneapolis. I heard gunshots. I didn't hear pop, pop. There was gunshots. I heard absolute gunshots all the time. This was pop, pop, pop. So I'm like, I hope that's not what I think it is. So I make my way to the east hallway, which is to my left. The east hallway is over 100 yards long. It is approximately 30 feet wide. It houses all the special needs, where you daycare, the teens, the baby, everything. It houses everything.
Jeanne, can I just describe this real quick? Because I mean, I've toured that church. Let me just describe it real quick, because this is an important detail for all of this. So there's a sanctuary, which is, I don't know if everyone has seen New Life. It's a huge sanctuary. It's round, and then sort of coming off of the north of that is a series of buildings, and then there's a hallway. And coming off of these hallways are these different, did you say
classrooms,
daycare, classrooms,
bathrooms,
sanctuaries, bathrooms, and so you have the hallway, and then if you turn and go in either direction, you can walk into a classroom that's full of people. Yeah, and it's huge. It's about 100 yards, and it's probably wider, or as wide as this building is wide. It's probably a little wider.
Yeah, it's wider. Yeah.
Yeah. So I mean, it's a long way, a football field basically. Picture that, and with this hallway, and then with the classrooms off to the side. So I mean, because it struck me. I mean, because I could never get it. I could, without actually having seen it. It was the descriptions weren't adequate to describe. Hallway. You could think it's a little narrow hallway, but I mean.
Yeah, no, this is just packed.
This is a long hallway. I mean, people are this small. If you're on one end of the hallway, the person at the end is about that big. So.
And it was just packed with hundreds and hundreds of men, women, and children. And so just the high-powered, or the crack of a high-powered rifle just starts ringing out. And I take my gun out, and I'm like, everybody's screaming and running and saying, get down, he's got a gun. And it's like we're being fired at. It was so loud, I thought he was in the church. Well, he wasn't in the church yet. He was firing at us from outside. He had emptied a 30-round magazine outside, and if it would not have been so cold, he would have killed the children outside playing, because he shot up the playground as he came in those doors. And so I thought he was inside, and I couldn't see, because I'm on the opposite end of where he was coming in. And so I'm like, where is he? Because he goes, and a taller security guy, tall like David, he's like, there he is, he's coming in the doors right now. So I sprinted down the hall. Without even hesitating, I sprinted down the hall. Everybody's running past me. And all of a sudden, like in seconds, they found a place to hide. I mean, all those hundreds of people found a place to hide. There were no babies crying, no cell phones going off. This was unreal. And nobody was chattering on my radio. I mean, we had shared that radio with with ushers and all sorts of staff, different channels. Everything was very quiet except for the gunman. It was just the gunman now, and I stopped, and I'm like, okay, now would be a good time for me to take cover. So the gunman's firing steadily down the hall. He's trying to hit these elderly volunteers in the round volunteer booth who were lying on the ground. He's trying to hit them, and he almost hit them. It's a miracle he didn't hit anybody when he's firing through those masses of people. And
So let me get the picture right as you're describing this. So at the end of this long hallway, there are these glass doors, and then if I'm looking this way, right, that wall would be the glass doors. Of the other side of those glass doors is where their parking lot is, right? He's firing through those windows. Is that?
No, it's firing through the glass doors.
Through the glass doors. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, and
there's glass
his bullets
everywhere.
Yeah, his bullets penetrated the sanctuary. So there were people in the sanctuary.
Did you hear the bullets?
Yes.
What does that sound like?
I thought.
Could you pay it? I mean, was in the confusion?
No. I was totally focused. Nothing was slow motion. Nothing was sped up. It was all perfect timing. I was very calm. I was just like. only thing I thought was that he was in, they were so loud, I thought he was inside, remember? But he wasn't even inside yet. That's how loud these rounds were. I mean, it was a booming noises. And so everybody had found a place to hide, and I had taken cover in a hallway that was perpendicular. I got pretty far up the hallway, and he's continuing to fire at these elderly people. And I was just like, God, please just be with me. And I'm thinking, you know, I got to kill this guy before he kills me, and then he'll kill all these other people. Not once did I ever even think, you know, he's got an AR-15 and I've only got a handgun. That doesn't enter, I don't think that would enter any cop's mind, but I don't know. I mean, somebody just asked me that question recently, and it's like, who cares what he's got? I've got my gun. I don't care what he's got. I have to kill this guy. Unless he had a Sherman tank, and even then I would be like, okay, I need to get around the tank, get over on top, and pop a couple rounds down there, and we'll be good. But you just don't think about that thing. You're just thinking, I've got to kill this guy before he kills me and kills other people.
So you took cover. Did you strategize?
For a second.
What was it? What was your
God
strategy?
help me. God, please just be with me. That was my strategy. I was serious. I was like, God, help me do this. You know, I'd taken my gun out morning, noon, and night with Minneapolis on the north side. You know, it was Crips and Bloods. And lots of shootings, and, you know, but I had never had to shoot anybody. And so I just wanted to make sure I did this right. I had one chance. I mean, but when that gunman showed up, my first thought was, you have got to be kidding me. Because I was right. My gut feeling was right. I mean, you know how mind-blowing that is, that he actually showed up. He actually drove 70-some miles to New Life. And this was just a gut feeling. That blows my mind to this day. So I was like thinking, okay, he's continuing down the hall. I was in what we call the high ready. I was going to wait for him to come completely even with me, and then I was going to shoot him. And then I just thought, no, that is not the right. The hall was too skinny I was in, and it just didn't feel right. So I was just like, God, please just be with me. And then I was like, I stepped out, and I felt this instantly when I stepped out. I was like, wham, this shield, this invisible force shield. I'm not making this up. I will never forget it. Just surrounded me. Like, it was the most powerful force ever. Wham, just surrounds me. I mean, that blew my mind more than anything. A protective shield. And I was like, police officer, drop your weapon. And I had my gun, of course, pointed at him. Well, he turns. As soon as he turns, bam, 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 bam. I shot 5 times. He goes completely back on his back at 63 feet. And I didn't know that he had a backpack on him he had approximately 1,700 rounds on him, in magazines loaded. And he goes completely on his back. And I'm walking toward him with my gun on him, so now I'm closer, and I'm like, drop your weapon or I will kill you.
You're still walking forward as you're saying.
With my gun on him.
Okay.
And I mean, I wasn't afraid of this guy. And he sits up and starts shooting at me. So now we're shooting at each other at close range. And he missed me, thank God, because I had that protection.
Can I ask you just, I mean, you're in the middle of this very compelling story, but I want to ask you something. When you stepped out from your cover and you faced him, what was he doing? Was he
pointing his gun at me, about ready to pull the trigger?
But you said he had turned. Was he?
He was shooting. He was focusing on trying to hit those elderly people.
Which were
straight ahead. So
okay.
So they're straight ahead, okay. And I'm just off a little bit.
Yeah, she's in the hall. No, she's in the hallway. You're in the hallway.
Yeah. So the elderly people are right where he is, on the ground, and so I'm just off. So he's like this, you know, with his AR-15. So he just had to turn a little bit.
Distance from
63 feet, the first shots, and
so he turns and he fires it, or he turns and faces you, and that's when no more words.
Yeah, you don't wait for him to pull the trigger. I mean, all he has to do is point his weapon at you. You can't hesitate. So I shot the first 5 rounds, rapid fire.
So your training is, what were you aiming for when you shot, when you fired those weapons?
Him.
Was it him
course.
here? I mean, this.
I was
this
just
is your
aiming at
training.
him. 63 feet is a long ways.
Okay.
And
So okay, all right. So you fired, and so then when you keep walking towards him after you fire your weapon.
yeah, he's down. I did not know. I'm a good shot, and I'm not saying that boastfully. I'm thankful for that. It's a gift. Well, this shot was not on purpose, but it was a lucky shot. One round that I hit broke both femurs. It went through both of his legs. That's why he couldn't get up. And but that's why he sat up and was shooting at me, and he was on meth and things like that too. So.
What kind of rounds were you loaded with? What kind of rounds did you have in your clip?
In my magazine, I just had 9. 9 millimeter.
Were they hollow points or?
Yeah, I had hollow points.
Okay.
Yeah.
So when you were walking towards him and he turns and he starts firing at you, are you walking in a straight line to him, or are you kind of taking evasive measures?
No, I'm
how does
just,
that work?
it was just at a slight angle. You know, I'm just walking toward him with my gun on him, and I just was fearless.
Yeah.
I wasn't crazy. I wasn't, I was just like, I just was, I don't know, the best word is fearless, absolutely fearless.
Okay, so he falls on his back, and he sits up and starts firing at you, and then what happened?
That's when I said, drop your weapon or I will kill you. Well, then he starts shooting at me again, so I had to keep shooting. So I shot him a total of 10 times and killed him. And by the time I killed him, I was less than 5 feet from him. So whatever reports you heard, I'm telling you, I got his blood spatter all over my clothes, boots, jeans, jacket, shirt, and I would have seen him if he had, somebody said that he killed himself. I would have seen it, I would have heard it, and I would have reported that, but he didn't. And when you're a normal person, not a psycho, it bothers you to have to kill somebody in such a violent way. I had no choice. And
Did he say anything to you while this was happening?
no, he didn't say anything.
Did you?
How can you hear? I was coughing, there was gunpowder, and I had seen like grenades on his, he had a weight-bearing vest, not bulletproof, which also held more magazines. And so I had seen grenades and man, I mean, the whole thing, I thought, if he pulls one of those grenades, I'm dead, and so is everybody else. So that's why I was so close when I killed him. I'm like, oh, I've got to. I would rather not have killed him. That's why I said, drop your weapon or I'll kill you. I gave him chances to drop his weapon, and he didn't.
Did he stay in the hallway, or did he drag himself someplace where he could take cover? How
No, he was trying to go down another hallway, and I'm like, I cannot. I thought you wanted an abbreviated version, so.
No.
So I thought, I cannot have him get out of my sight again, or I'll have another situation. You can't. And then I'd have a whole other situation. I'd have to start over. So he's done. He's bleeding, and I had got him in the carotid artery also. So carotid and femoral arteries, you bleed out, and it's gruesome. It's so I thought if he tries to pull the pin of that grenade, which he did, he had explosives everywhere, all over the property. There were 2 bomb units dispatched to that location, and So you knocked him on his back. He kept firing at you, and he was trying to drag himself to cover. Is that what happened? Yeah.
Okay. And then he ended up in a kind of like a little hallway, kind of.
Well, no, I didn't let him get out of my sight. I was just like, drop your weapon or I will kill you. And he's trying to pull the pin of one of the grenades, and I'm like, if that happens, not only am I. That was one time where I was afraid. I was like, holy crap. I mean, I don't want to be exploded into little pieces.
How close were you when the shooting stopped?
less than 5 feet. When I saw him with that, I'm like, you know, that's the part where I had to kill him. And then this guy immediately runs up.
When you say that's the part you had to kill him, what do you mean by that?
I had to, well, he was dying anyway, but I had to fire more rounds. I had to fire more rounds so he couldn't pull the pin of the grenade.
When you were 5 feet away from him?
Yeah. I mean, can you imagine?
No.
You would have done the same thing. You would have been like, ooh, we don't want him to pull that pin. So this guy, right after that, I'm coughing and gunpowder, and just the whole thing was surreal. You know, that presence that I had felt. And I'm not making that up. I am not making that up. So this guy runs up to me and he goes, he's screaming this in glee. He's like, that was the coolest thing I have ever seen. How did you do that? And I was like, get this guy away from me. He was a witness, though. He was a witness. And he was a Vietnam vet, and he went on and gave interviews, and he said, I fought in Vietnam, and I've never seen anything as brave as that in my entire life. And the church ended up evicting him. Physically, it was on the front page of the paper. They kicked him out of that church. He's a witness, because he's a witness. Remember the email, and I don't know if you want to get into all that yucky stuff.
Why did they evict him?
There's a postscript to this story. We could talk about this now.
Can we just get a definition? What do you mean by that? They evicted him that moment, or they kicked him out as a member?
No, they kicked him out as a. I just, I was so, the stuff, it affects you so much to have to kill somebody, and then all these things started coming out about me that weren't true, and that was the most traumatic. But I remember, I just remember seeing some of my security members putting their arm, like a bear hug, and getting him out of there, and made the front page of the Gazette. Yeah, yeah.
Right, there's a postscript, and we can talk about that, and we can open that up for questions if you want to explore this a little more.
It's so unpleasant, but
there is. We can talk about that if you want to, but I want to, for right now, I want to talk about the difficulty of what you did. I mean, it's not like you came off the street and did this.
Yeah.
Yours is a situation where you actually trained to do this. Can you talk a little bit about the training that you had with the Minneapolis Police Department or throughout your career?
Well, we had never trained. Minneapolis is a very aggressive. Denver is like, you have no crime here compared to Minneapolis. And Crips and Bloods, if you don't know what they are, they're the black gangs, very serious there. So we had shootings morning, noon, and night. If there was a shooting on the north side, there would be a retaliatory shooting on the south side, and they were very gory and violent, and I saw a lot of death, a lot of people take their last breaths, and we had our guns out all the time. These guys were very hardcore, very serious, and but we'd never trained for active shooter. We'd never trained for active shooter.
Trained with a gun, right?
Yeah. And we never called SWAT. Never once did we call SWAT. We never thought we needed them. It's like we had a SWAT team, but I just thought they just have better equipment than we do.
Were you certified with a firearm?
What?
Were you certified to use firearms when you were with
Minneapolis
the police
Police.
Okay. Did you have a marksmanship rating, if that's such a thing?
Yes, expert. Yeah,
You were certified expert while you were with the police force.
Well, yeah. I mean, you go by your last name, not with your rank. So I would shoot with like captains and chiefs and lieutenants and things like that. With A is their last name, and I would always outshoot them. I'd do better than they did, which was awesome.
And this is all before this happened in your life.
Yeah.
And what about when you're confronting a gunman or any person? What's the training that you receive as far as when you pull out your gun, what is the goal of pulling out your gun?
To make sure you don't get killed because they're all armed.
And where are you trained to aim?
You aim to center mass. You shoot to kill. You don't shoot to wound because that's still a threat. And you know, people have asked me, why don't you shoot him in the arm or leg? Well, that is, look at this tiny target. You know, if you can hit that in a moving target who's about to shoot you, you're not going to kill them. And good luck hitting it. You want to go the largest area, center mass. So for people who want to carry concealed, I applaud you. I think you mean well, but can you kill somebody? Are you prepared to kill somebody? It's so unpleasant. It's so awful. But you cannot think about that. You have to do it. You have seconds to make up your mind. What? You have seconds to make up your mind. Not minutes. You can't think about, is this going to go to court? Am I going to get in trouble for this? You know, like, you just can't think about things like that.
Do you think you fell back on your training when the shooting happened? Did you just kind of go into automatic mode, or was it something?
Of course, of course.
You did. You fell back on your training.
Absolutely. I mean, I'm a trained police officer. That's why the guys that were with me on my security team were armed. They had shot at a piece of paper, but they were not police officers, so they froze. They didn't know what to do. And I've never, who's that guy?
That's a board member.
Okay. So I've never criticized them. It's like, it's okay. You're not cops. You didn't know what to do. But, you know, I'll never, ever badmouth somebody who means well. But, you know, if you've got a situation where you've got someone like me who's a trained police officer in plain clothes, and you're somebody who's just a civilian carrying concealed, either I'm going to kill you or you're going to try and kill me. And it's just, I'm most likely going to know this is a civilian who doesn't know what they're doing. I mean, I'm like 99% sure I'm going to know this is a civilian who's like, oh, crap, what do I do? What do I do? If we're both in the same area where there's an active shooter. But I don't think that you'll have the same gut feeling about me. I think you might think, this woman has a gun. She's going to kill people. So it's just like a disaster waiting to happen. I mean,
you know, listening, talking to you over the years, and I would imagine that it takes a long time to get used to the idea that you've taken somebody's life. What kind of therapy, or what kind of, I mean, did you go through any?
Nobody
type of
gets
counseling?
that. Yeah, I saw the Colorado Springs guy that you see when you're involved in a shooting. But you know, when you're involved in a shooting on duty, 3 days off. You get 3 days off, and that's it. And I had none of that because I had just parted ways with parole. So my police license was active, but I had just parted ways with parole. So I had no one. So, and then the city of Colorado Springs honored me, and I appreciated that, but they were honoring me as a civilian, and I said, I am a licensed police officer. Why? I'm just curious. I appreciate this, but why are you doing this as a civilian? And they said, because you were off duty that day. And that is bogus. That's bogus. They wouldn't do that to a uniformed Colorado Springs officer. And I threw that medal away because all it did was just stab me in the heart. I mean, it just, the reports that came out after, it was just brutal because of,
Go ahead.
well, because of all the cover-up. They knew about the email. We didn't know who this guy was, but the church knew.
Us on the email.
Yeah, the gunman wrote an email. So he kills 12:30 midnight. So this all happens the same day. And then he blogs right before he comes to New Life under a pseudonym that he's coming there to kill. And
So was it an email or a blog post?
it was an email, according to Arvada, the Arvada PD that I talked to.
Who?
To the church.
To the church.
So that's why they had extra, remember, they had extra cops there that day.
Thank you.
And
but that's in dispute as far as the church is concerned. They have never made that public, and that's why I mentioned
It's because
that.
lawsuit. Can you say lawsuit? Why didn't they cancel services? Why didn't they cancel services that day? Why did those officers leave with 7,000 people still there? Those are just questions that I'm putting out there.
Right. So
to characterize you as not as a police officer, how does that help them?
Anything to discredit me, and this is uncomfortable to talk about because I've tried to tell reporters that's not what happened. That is not what happened. I called Snopes and Wikipedia, and I'm like, that's not the truth. So anything to discredit me because of the lies, because of the cover-up. You know, the police shouldn't have left early. They shouldn't have left with all those people there. The church actually should have canceled services that day. You know, like there was just a quick example. There was a bomb threat in one of the schools in LA County a couple years ago, and I remember paying attention to this. Whoever the superintendent was of all of the LA County schools canceled all schools that day. And I'm like, that man or woman is awesome. They care about their students because they didn't know which school it was. That is proper protocol. Those girls didn't have to die that day in the parking lot of the church. So 9 people were shot, 4 were killed.
So there is also a postscript in terms of the official cause of death according to the El Paso County Coroner's Office.
Changed his story 4 times. Let's make that on the record.
Right.
4 times.
But the official report that's filed with by the El Paso County Coroner's Office is that the gunman died of a self-inflicted gunshot wound.
Yeah. The first report, though, was that I killed him. His first report.
Jeanne can speak to that, and I think she already did as far as why she feels that that's the case. But there's, all I'm saying is that there is conflicting information from their office, but she was there, and so
it sounds like, to add it up, it sounds like they didn't want to attribute the death of to you because their own cops
left.
Stood down.
They left. They left because there was a Broncos football game on.
So they didn't want to attribute to you. So how does it help them to say that you're not a cop?
Well, anything to discredit me. A story came out that now we're getting to this most.
Right. So let's loop around this. Let me just wrap up this because I want to know as far as the emotional trauma of killing a person. It's still I can tell that there is like pain in your eyes when you talk about this. I mean, there's still. Well,
yeah. I mean, it's not like yes. When I see these blogs of gun rights, some of the real extreme gun rights people. Again, I'm the Second Amendment. I'm for the Second Amendment. But when I see some of these extreme Second Amendment right people, I just lost my train of thought. When they're talking about dirt bag, this dirt bag that I killed, all I saw when I saw him take his last breath, I was with him. I was the only one with him when he took his last breath. I just thought, how sad. How sad that I had to kill this guy that was so confused that he thought he had to kill people. And I didn't know who he was, but he was loved by, I'm not a bleeding heart. I did what I had to do. But he was loved by somebody. His parents loved him. And I just thought it was sad. That was my feeling. I saw him take his last breath. And I've seen that before, and it's disturbing. It's disturbing,
I just wanted to say one thing. I don't know whether people tried to discredit you, but in whatever the murkiness of the news, you came through to me just as a as a person who had done an extraordinary thing at the right time and the right place, without any confusion.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
So you support Second Amendment. You're not a bleeding heart. You don't think that people should, taking guns away from people.
No.
But then
No, I think that would be wrong.
There's another proposal out there: armed teachers, more guns.
Yeah.
Can you just share your views on that?
Are you guys okay with this? Is
Before
this
we open up
okay?
Before we open up the floor to questions on any topic.
The way I feel about that is, when I was a Minneapolis police officer, we would respond to schools where the students were assaulting the teachers. So you got some big students. Now, what if that happened and a student disarms a teacher and he's angry and he starts shooting everybody in the classroom? So that's one scenario. I'm used to carrying my gun everywhere. I think cops off duty should always be armed because I think it's an obligation. We've had so many active shootings, especially in Colorado for whatever reason, but we're used to having it on us. And I've already read stories of teachers leaving their guns in the restroom and students, luckily not crazy students, finding it. And teachers accidentally shooting themselves too. Just like you hear some of these athletes accidentally shooting themselves in the thigh. It's an accident. And so like if it's a teacher who's a retired police officer or military and they're used to it, that's okay. But I just see a disaster. And my stance is not to discredit well-meaning people, well-meaning teachers. It is to protect these people from getting themselves or other people killed. That's where I stand. So, I don't take sides. I want to hear both sides of the story. I want to hear both sides of the argument because I think I think we could come up with a solution.
I have some follow-up questions, but at this moment, we'd open up the questions to floor, to anybody.
On this very point, I was an Army officer in that platoon, trained with the M16 and 45. I had a 92 FS. I trained with a hostage rescue with Chicago SWAT team. When all this stuff started bubbling up about arming teachers and janitors, and I thought, wait a second, they got no communications. They got no fire maneuver training.
Exactly.
They've got no They've got no hostage rescue procedures. So what, you got 10 people in a school who are all armed, and they're all going to run after it? And
students screaming and chaos.
And then you got the cops maybe running.
Yeah.
Checking. Am I?
No, you're exactly what I need. I mean, people like you, you're thinking the exact same thing that all other military and cops are, most of us, that it's just like, what? I mean, for people to think that, I posted on Facebook, I said, being a teacher is a trained profession, as is being a police officer. You can't just drop your chalk and pick up your gun and expect that you're going to be able to take on an active shooter.
Is it a recipe for disaster?
Absolutely.
That's what I thought.
Without question, it's a recipe for disaster.
Tatiana?
I was wondering if you felt safe or unsafe after, or if people noticed you on the street or noticed you when they heard you say your name out loud. Just wondering if you felt less secure after this incident.
No. Ever since that day, man, I feel if anybody ever tries to hurt me, they will lose. I feel like I have a protection around me, and I'm saying it. I'm dead serious. I just feel like whatever that was that day is stuck with me. Like, take me on if you want, but you're not going to win. You will not win against me. And I do personal protection for people, and I assure them, and they believe me. I'm like, you're very safe with me. You will not die if I'm your protection. And I mean it. I'm absolutely serious. I feel just so confident, and you know, I'm very good with my gun, and I'm not afraid of anything but a bad hair day. That's what I tell people.
You're having a great hair day today. I think I saw Susanna and then David. Yeah. Susanna.
Well, my mom was a teacher. A lot of my friends are teachers and involved with the school systems, and they're pretty consistent that they don't think that it's a good idea.
Mm-hmm.
Last week there were a couple of criminology professors from Regis University,
Mm-hmm.
and one of them said that he thought it would be a good idea to arm teachers as a deterrent. And he said only the teachers who choose to be armed would be armed, but that they should have that option, and that just knowing that that was there. I think he even said the best way to stop a bad person with a gun is a good person with a gun, you know, that kind of cliche.
I think the NRA said that. Like,
Yeah,
Yeah.
that is a
Like
silly.
speaking with that, but that's what the criminology professor Regis said, and I was just wondering how you would respond to that, to what he said.
I wish they were here today, because it's absolute chaos. I mean, the loud, you know, just the gunshots are extremely, if you're not used to that, you know, there was people that were just frozen in fear. They were just frozen in fear, and what those security guys with me that didn't know what to do with their guns, what they did do was get people out of harm's way, because people were just like, they're frozen in fear. Or else they're like, what's going on? I mean, they're just in a daze. And you don't know what you're made of until you are in that situation. You can shoot at a piece of paper all day long and be considered an excellent marksman, but it's different when you've got a very angry, deranged gunman firing an AR-15 or an AK-47 at you. And you see, what if you're about to engage him and somebody's head gets blown off right in front of you and guts are all over you? And it's going to rattle you. It is going to rattle you, and I just think you're asking for absolute disaster. They don't know what they're asking for.
David and then Tom. David.
You mentioned that the sense of protection persists with you. I want to know what else persists with you. What about the downsides? PTSD, just sadness. How does it affect your life? What's the downside that we don't hear about the heroes who go through something traumatic?
Just the stories that came out, that just all sorts of stories came out to discredit me. Like I said, you know, devastated me, because integrity and protecting people are just, I feel like what I was born to do. And I even applied for Colorado Springs Police, and I scored really high on everything. I work out 2 hours a day, did well on the computerized test and everything, and then they rejected me. And so I met with the chief, and he said, "What can we do for you, Jeanne?" And I said, "Well, you know, I appreciate you meeting with me, but this is the Colorado Springs police chief after the shooting." I said, I was just wondering, I did so well on all the tests. Why did you reject me? And he screamed at me, and he goes, "You don't get to decide." And I was stunned. I was just stunned. I was so caught off guard. And I had not yet known about the email. I didn't know about the email till this retired homicide detective told me in 2011. The shooting was just barely 10 years ago now. So notice I say retired. Then he has the guts to tell me that. And then he said, "I'm surprised they haven't tried to have you killed because of all the information I knew." Yeah, and that rattled me a little bit, because it's like there's so many cover-ups.
They said you don't get to decide. You don't get to decide what.
You don't get to decide if I hire you or not. All I said was, I was just wondering why. Like, I was just like, you know, I saved those people. I don't expect a reward. I did my job. But why would you turn me down when I scored so high on everything? And he screamed at me and says, "You don't get to decide." And wow, I was just stunned. And I was shocked, actually. I was shocked. and just
Yeah,
pain.
I've been down to the state capitol the last 5+ years on all of these gun bills. This whole, you know, all guns, all the time, everywhere, makes us safer, can make us safer. They bring up from time to time, although they've never used your name specifically, they speak about the new life, and that's one of their shining moments. This is one of their triumphs. This is what can, you know, this is why we can do it, because of the actions that were taken that day.
Right,
And
that's
they
good.
are of the firm belief that they all are capable
Yeah.
of what you just explained, you know, to all of us.
So that's,
I mean, my question is, I mean, have you ever thought, I mean, we certainly could use your help down there, but I mean, if you've been down in El Paso County, you know who we're talking to. It's not going to get through to them. But, and of course you can look here, and none of them are here. I don't know that you've ever spoken, you know, to any of our state legislators who continue to try to, you know, bring this in to everybody. But I mean, that's what they say. They can all be you. I mean,
Right,
they don't
right.
use your name, but they all believe they can be exactly like you.
well, that was, that's perfect with David's question about the pain, because, you know, being a police officer just meant everything to me. And so I'm thinking, you know, I was actually thinking that, you know, this is my question. I was asking God the day while I was fasting. You know, this is my redemption of all the lies that came out of the Minneapolis thing. I'm like, God's redeeming me. I'm going to get my job back as a cop. And I mean, parole officer is not the same as being on in a squad and in uniform. I mean, that's just me. So what did happen, they did use my name and my picture without my permission. It was a post that went literally hundreds and hundreds of thousands of times, retweeted, reposted on Twitter, saying, this is Jeanne Assam. She just happened to be at New Life Church the day a crazed, legally carrying a concealed weapon the day a crazed gunman came in. And then they said that, then they had to add that the gunman killed himself. And it was just, the whole thing just stripped me. It felt like they were just ripping my heart out of my soul. Complete lie. Just, oh, that killed me. And I tried to find the source. I'm like, please stop. You know, I was part of the security team. I'm a police officer. I was trained, you know, and just everything opposite of who I am. They stripped that. And finally, they stopped posting that. But it just took forever. Damage was done. Whoever did it, different groups posted that, like the NRA and the gun rights activist groups. So what you just said, they did use my name. Because this woman, they called me, this woman could do it. So if she could do it, anybody could do it, is what they said.
I mean, as you know, legislators only know a little bit of anything. So
Yeah.
I mean, they probably don't even know your name. I mean, they're lucky that they know that the New Life Church.
No, Denver, they honored me. This House and Senate honored me. They actually they did something in my name, so they know who I am.
I don't know if there's anybody left at the State House who was there when you were there.
They're all dead.
Already.
Are they dead?
No, I think they're term limited, and I think they may have cycled out. And then there's the legend of Jeanne Assam. Let me just put a bow on what you're saying. So you're saying that no, not anyone can be you.
Darn right. You have to have, you know as well as I do,
Yeah.
and anybody else who's been in the military, I applaud you. You know you have to have the right mindset, whether you are male or female, because women are strong as hell and courageous, and but you do have to have the right mindset. And that's what I want to teach the average person. It's what I'm trying to do and been trying to do for a couple years now. Is I'm working on a project where I can, you know, why do police officers run toward the danger? Because we know what to do. So why not teach that to civilians? You've got it in you, you know, you've got it in you. And
But it's not
you don't have to
simple.
be, it's not simple.
It's not concealed carry, you sit for 6
Right.
hours in a classroom.
Exactly.
It's not
It's
gun
much more than that.
There's a lot more that goes into it.
Right. That's what I want to do. I want to,
Yeah.
And you know, Jeanne, I'm gonna share a private conversation that we had. I think you said it very succinctly when you said what you just described.
You've been drinking. What's the conversation?
Minimizes all of them. No, I haven't been drinking. You don't know what was it. That was iced tea. This man looked like a.
Secret iced tea formula.
Yeah.
The conversation we were having was that, you know, you said to me that making it sound like anybody can run into the line of fire minimizes the amount of training that you've had.
Oh,
And minimizes the fact that you were a police officer.
yeah, I mean, the perfect example is the guys that were with me. There's 4 different guys. You know, the rest of the team had left to go watch the game, but those 4 men meant well, but they did not know what to do. The Walmart guys meant well, but they weren't sure what to do.
When you say the Walmart guys, you're talking about the concealed weapon carry guys who
The recent,
looked up?
yeah,
This was in November 1st.
yeah,
Walmart,
they meant well,
Ed,
but yeah,
Walmart in Thornton, Westminster,
Thornton.
and there were a lot of people there. There was confusion as to who the gunman was because surveillance videos showed a lot of people had pulled out a gun.
Yeah.
So they had multiple gunmen.
And they're probably
in
going,
the
am I going to
store.
get in trouble for this? You know, all these things going through their minds that you cannot be thinking that when you're a cop or a soldier. You have to think it's me or him. That's all you're thinking about.
50 other people.
Yeah, and if I die, all these innocent people are going to die.
Sabra, you had a question. Oh, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Did I blindside you?
Oh, no, I just-
Were you, okay, all right, you're next. Sabra.
I don't know whether this is interesting to other people or not, but in terms of the big sort of societal question around gun safety, gun violence, gun control, I'm sort of like the original knee-jerk liberal, progressive, we don't like guns, peace-nicky person that ever lived. But your story has stuck in my head so vividly over the years that every single time I encounter a conversation about gun control and gun safety and how we behave in public spaces to preserve human life and protect human life, her story has been sort of like my reality check. It informs my critical thinking. It makes me think harder. It makes me think that people are very simplistic about the conversation. So there is still a place for a person who had the training, the competence, pardon me, the balls, the sheer balls
Yeah,
to
balls,
do
Jeanne.
what you
No,
do.
I've got a spine of steel, I like to say.
Yeah, all of those things. But I'm just saying it informed me for many, many years. It's like it's a big voice in my head.
Good.
And thank you for all the people that you saved that day.
Thank you.
Thanks, Sabra. You have a question?
Yes, I'm wondering what you think the appropriate role of the SWAT team is. We had 2 professors last week who said that at Columbine, the police officers were trained to stand outside, wait for the SWAT team. They said they've changed that, so now they're teaching police officers to do exactly what you did, just go in and kill them, I guess. That's what he said.
Yeah.
I don't know what the SWAT team does, I know nothing about police tactics, but if you could speak to that, I would appreciate it.
You know, the SWAT team has, you know, I was interviewed on, if you Google Police One, my interview with Police One, I wasn't being disrespectful, but toward the very end I said, you know, God bless SWAT, but don't wait for them. And, you know, the other cops think that's really funny. But I didn't mean any disrespect, but I'm serious. You don't wait for SWAT because your casualties rise. They have to go get their equipment on, they have to get together, they've got to get their gear and all this other stuff. And you have no time. It didn't even cross my mind to wait for SWAT, not for a second. I'm very thankful that I was, you know, raised in a department like Minneapolis where, you know, we back SWAT up on search warrants and things, but, you know, for home invasions where they would kill people and take over their homes and sell drugs out of their homes and things. And it's like, there'd be guns and things. It's like, we don't need SWAT. We're cops. We can go in and get back this house and get these guys with guns at gunpoint. You know, now one of my Denver PD friends said that Denver PD was going back to having SWAT going first, waiting for SWAT. So SWAT is very effective in certain situations, but not when you've got an active shooter. And also, here is the sad truth. When you have an active shooter, the first responding officers, you cannot attend to the wounded. You have to go get this guy and stop him, or you're going to have a higher casualty count. That's the sad part. You cannot render aid until you stop the bad guy. Hopefully you don't have to kill him, but whatever it takes, you have to stop the bad guy first. That is your top priority.
What should we do on a national scale to keep President Bonesburg from, arming everybody for a few dollars bonus?
I think he means well. He's getting all sorts of, I'm the kind that I want us to be the United States of America. We're stronger that way. So I wish, if any of you can get me a meeting with him, let me talk to him. I'm one of the few who's got that experience of a one-on-one active shooter.
He's got H.R. McMaster and John Kelly right next to him.
And what's their experience?
These guys were in Iraq and firefights.
Well, did they take on an active shooter alone?
No.
No.
So let me talk to him. Let me talk to Donald. Those guys are trained soldiers, and I'm plain clothes. I have no bulletproof vest. Everybody left. The other armed people left. I would love to respectfully talk with President Trump and say, just let me give you my perspective of what it's really like. Because war, war is different than a one-on-one cop shooting. I mean, they're both awful, but it's different. It's very different.
They're not talking him down.
Right. He needs to hear some different stories, some different aspects is what he needs.
Which is what we brought here to the Denver Press Club tonight, everyone. Thank you so much for coming and attending. I wish we had more time. But,
was it okay? I mean,
thank you.
I never know.
Thank you, Jeanne. If you'd like to stick around, hang out. I'm sure there's lots of other questions and one-on-one questions people want to ask. If you have time, if you want to hang out.
People left. It's like, did it get boring or something?
No, she's over there. And there's another person that went to the bathroom. So I'm going to stick around, Jeanne.
Okay.
If you'd like to have a drink. Yeah,
No, I don't want to drink.
Sure, okay.
Yeah.
All right, guys. Thank you very much, everyone. And please